Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the National Association of Collegiate Esports Championships here at HRX 2018 Dreamhack Atlanta. Introducing your teams. First up, it's the University of Georgia Hometown Heroes. And they will be facing the West Coast rivals here, the University of Washington. Good luck.
Well, thank you so much. The voice of God, Evan, flying in the sky. Guys, I've had to bring in a little substitute here. It is going to be Mr. NTB's on the call with me. Vox was gracious enough to let him do this. How you feeling, man? You excited?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. Got the trifecta going now. Player, analyst, and caster. All three.
What can he do?
What can he do, indeed?
He got a law degree as well, to my knowledge.
Law degree.
Simply nothing can stand in his way. I'm super excited for this one. I hope you guys aren't holding your breath for any unbiased commentary. UGA graduate here, so I'm going to be rooting for my dogs. I know Bees is going to be an honorary.
I'm going to go for the Washington Bulls.
Honorary West Coast here. Going to bring a little bit of that flavor. It's going to be a lot of fun, though. These players playing for $50,000 total in scholarship money, something that's, you know, super exciting. You know, nobody wants to have those student loans at the end of the
I know all about that.
Man, I know they want to get this money. $40,000, I believe, for the winner, $10,000 for second place. It's going to be a lot of fun here. Now, we don't know too much about these teams. I believe Cookies OP plays for one of these teams, and he's a guy that I know he's kind of floating around the NA ranked scene. Oh. I know UGA's kind of been sitting in the stands, watching a little bit of the PC action today. Hopefully they've been taking notes, kind of doing their homework, but I think we've had a lot of conversation around, obviously, what the console meta, you know, versus the PC meta. And I think given that, do you think it's worth it for these college players at this point just to kind of go with what they're comfortable with, and or making adjustments on the fly is going to be something important for LAN?
I'd say most definitely going for something they're comfortable with. It would be the play, in my opinion. Like, you can come to these events, you can see things that are kind of strong, and if you're comfortable on that, sure, maybe prioritize it in the draft. But if you've never played Makoa before and you think Makoa is strong now, maybe give it a miss. Maybe your deck isn't even set up to have a little Makoa fun.
Awesome, man. Well, we're going to throw it back down to Rain Day to get us a little pregame interview.
All right, well, I am here down on the floor with Tanner Sharp, I believe, from University of Washington, their coach. Tanner, how are you guys feeling going into this environment? This is relatively new, I would imagine, for the collegiate boys.
You know, I think that overall we've done a lot of practice over the past few weeks and tried to fix some of the mistakes that we had when we originally played Georgia. And I think everyone's feeling pretty good and everyone's feeling ready to go. We're all ready and prepped. You know, we've been in a couple of BYOC tournaments, so we're familiar with the LAN environment, so let's hope it transfers.
You know, I have to say that at UCLA, when I was a soccer player, I had to put the beat down on University of Washington, who was in the Pac-12. I told Will this, and there's no hard feelings. But do you really feel that you're going to get this W? I mean, Georgia did qualify ahead of you. They are looking good. They are the #1 seed. What makes you so confident thinking that you're going to get this win?
You know, I think overall one of the biggest things is that I think Georgia really haven't abused some of their supporting staff, and I think some of their players may have been slacking at the end.
Wow, slacking. Okay, interesting. Thank you so much, Tanner. We're hearing from Washington here. We'll have a moment to hear from Georgia. Good luck in the matchup.
Slacking, the words up on stage here. So University of Georgia coming in confident. I think everyone's got to come in confident, obviously, but Washington talking a little bit of smack up there on the stage. I think it's an interesting point that they bring up, right? There is time in between qualifying and actually playing in the event. So that's something, you know, if you got to stay sharp through that time, it's really important. We're going to go ahead and get into the map screen here. Ladies and gentlemen, Splitstone Quarry gone, Ascension Peak gone, Serpent Beach gone, Jaguar Falls gone. First map in this best-of-5 set will be Frog Isle. This is the higher seed UGA's pick. That is the team on the left. Obviously, it does say Washington on the right. Just to clarify for you guys, those are who is playing for this $50,000 in scholarship prize money. Frog Isle, I've seen it a couple times today. Bees, what are the keys to victory on this Frog Isle map?
Well, we've said it previously in the day, but Frog Isle tends to be a very snowball-heavy map. So, certainly, I mean, if you're coming in the higher siege or the confident team, I don't see it seems like a good choice to take for your first map. Yeah. You get that first victory out, maybe even get a nice 4-0 stomp, take the confidence away from your enemies before the game even starts, and, you know, continue that progression from there.
I think LAN, especially for these players, it's a little bit unfamiliar. I don't think they've ever played in this setting before. Momentum is going to be incredibly important. Let's send it back down to the stage for a little pregame interview with Rain Day and UGA to see how they're feeling.
Okay, so I have to ask, you brought not only the coach here, Yick, but your assistant, Danny, and University of Washington said they thought you weren't prepared. What is it? You guys have like 2 coaches. You have twice the amount of coaches. This is double the preparedness. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong. We always try and get things ready. We practice, and hopefully we bring back the win.
Danny, what's your role been in helping Yick get this team ready for this finals?
Pretty much just making sure everyone's got everything in check. Pretty much second opinions, anything else, like backup pretty much. And just making sure everything's running smoothly.
We've seen coaches like Fnatic Steel break out the yellow notepad. We've seen Metapusher on Envy break out the suit. You've got the suit and the iPad. Is this the next level of coaching in esports?
Absolutely. We're here to bring back the win. We do not play around.
I love it, guys. You know, one more word. How's it feel to be at Dreamhack Atlanta in this environment, being able to play on the stage?
I love it. I never expected to be here, and here we are. We made it.
Congratulations, guys. Good luck today in the matchup. Yick, Danny, head back over to the team. That's University of Georgia's coaches. Send it back to your casters.
Those boys down in Athens, ooh, they sure do dress sharply. The black on slate black. The doc would be very proud of the way UGA's coach is carrying himself today. I mean, how can you vote against that, man?
I know, I'm kind of maybe switch
the
side a little bit here.
iPad too, my man has got everyone in the house shook. I mean, he's looking prepared, he's looking prim, he's looking proper. UGA is certainly coming into this matchup with a ton of confidence. Just to remind you guys, Frog Isle is going to be our first match of this best-of-5 set. We're going to go ahead, get into the picks and bans here shortly for you guys. But Bees, kind of back to what you were saying, this is a bit of a smaller map in terms of just the mathematical time it takes to push the payload from start to finish. So teams can find themselves in a little bit of a snowball early.
Yeah, the map itself is quite snowboard, but then there's quite a few choke points on the map as well. I'd say, like, for such a small conversion, as you pointed out, like, there's 2 or 3, like, pretty strong choke points that you can hold on the map.
Even when you stack it up against, like, Brightmarsh, right?
Yeah.
Brightmarsh feels very compact, but you hold at the windmill. That's pretty much where everyone makes their stand. So, Frog Isle, you got to pick and choose your battles for sure. Knessa banned out first. These guys going for the sniper. Snipers were huge for SSG in their set earlier today.
Frog Isle, one of the famous maps for snipers. We've seen snipers drop out a lot from the meta as time has gone on, but Frog Isle is still one of the ones where they can be quite prevalent, still do a lot of work, and if you ban out the correct tanks specifically, then snipers become really, really strong on this map.
So both snipers banned away for UGA. It's tough to say, right, whether that's respect or whether that's just knowledge of the map. What tanks are you specifically looking to stay away from? Or if you're, you're a tank player, you're going up against snipers, who are you trying to pilot?
I mean, if I'm going to be the tank player into snipers, you're going to want something aggressive. You're going to want either the Makoas or the Ashes, something that can get in, do the damage, and if hopefully safely get back out again. On this map, though, the preferred would be the Ash.
Well, one of those boys is off the board. Makoa takes a seat alongside Khan, not unfamiliar territory. However, a lot of big things open. Torvald open here. That's the big question, though. Torvald doesn't necessarily work on his own. It's all about, like you, I think, actually said this, making unviable things viable. That doesn't feel like that's the way UGA are leaning here. Console, they prioritize their damage picks very early on, but we're seeing the Victor come through here for UGA. This is played on PC, just to kind of clarify that for everyone. Washington answer with 2 tanks.
Interesting draft so far. I think they are definitely taking tones from the PC draft. The Victor first pick is a little bit odd for me, especially when you're giving up the powerhouse of Inara. And then the Ash pick is actually very good on this map also. I would like to see maybe... the Drogos is very good actually as well. They've got such a nice little burst already now from UGA. They have the Victor grenades and they also have the combustible coming out from Drogos. On top of that, from the Drogos combustible, they have the 75% cauterized as well. So the draft is actually looking quite strong for both teams at the moment.
I'll tell you what I've seen in the past. And, I've never seen either of these teams play. I don't really know any of these players beforehand. I don't have any context. And so I think the closest thing I could compare that to is like the PGS, right? What I see in the PGS a lot of times is there is one or two standout players, whether that's the carries or the frontliners. Sometimes it's hard to say, right? I feel like that might be what UGA is going for. If they have these star fraggers, right, they're going to do everything they can to get them comfortable.
Yep.
But the reason we don't see that prioritization early on for most of the PC drafts is because it like gives away your game plan, right? You're like, you know exactly what UGA are trying to do. Frontline, frontline. Frontline creates space no matter what frontline you're really on.
Yeah.
Do you think this could be something that is exploited based on what Washington has drafted?
I mean, for sure, it's something that can be exploited. But then at the same time, as you said, sometimes on the skill level of things, if you don't have the capabilities to take, if you don't have the character then in your champ pool, for example, to counteract the enemies. I spoke to Blue earlier as well about when he was talking about consoles, and I was asking him, why is it specifically that you take the damage characters first when tanks become so strong? And he said it's the same as you're saying, just simply for comfort picks. You have these fraggers on your team, they want to play Vivian, give them Vivian, let them do what they do, and then whichever tank remains at the end, they just pick up.
Well, it looks like it will be the Barrack Fernando to round out for UGA. You know, with these double snipers, Ben, it does leave a lot more, and that's something that's worth talking about as well. Frontline bans, it's 3 or 4 usually, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of important to get those online quickly, or you are left with the bottom of the barrel. This time around, UGA leave a couple of things open. They square off with the Barrack Fernando. Washington will, of course, round out with their Maldamba. Who are you liking a little bit more on paper?
Now, on paper, I'm kind of leaning towards Washington. I like the Inara pickup. Yeah, I like the Inara pickup. I think they have the aggression from the Ashe to push in for the Victor. The only thing that really is going to stop the Ashe is when she uses her ult, maybe a combustible knocking her out.
Yeah.
But besides that, I think I like the draft from Washington a lot.
Cassie Leon, it's like, are you really mad at that backline? I mean, that's damn close to what Na'Vi were running, I think, at one point for their backline on Frog Isle. Certainly no paper weaknesses here for either squad through the draft here. We're just going to have to get in a game and settle the score. It is Frog Isle. It is a best of 5. You can hear the bongos beating as we head into game number 1 of the NACE finals between UGA and the University of Washington. This will be a best of 5 set. Bees, talk to us about the talents. Anything out of the ordinary?
Anything out of the ordinary? Nothing so far out of the ordinary that I'm seeing. A nice fortress break come through on the Ashe. I have to say I dislike it when I see the damage reduction taken on the Ashe. So it's nice to see the fortress breaker here.
Question for you.
Yes.
Slugshot. Is there a place for it still on Ashe?
There's certain maps where Slugshot can be good. Let's say, for example, on Splitstone, you're pushing in with the Ashe. The Ashe is very, unless she has her ultimate available, it's very hard for her to contest the high ground. So Slugshot kind of gives you the capabilities to poke out the enemy high ground damage dealers. So it's very specific. Maybe also sometimes on like a frozen guard when the enemy has snipers, it gives you that capability to continually poke them without having to be as aggressive as you might need to. Maybe you don't have your ultimate, you don't want to push in too hard. You can still get that decent amount of poke off.
So to clarify for you guys, Slugshot basically turns Ashe's auto attack from an AoE blast. That's kind of like mid-range now. It's been changed a couple of times, but it's effective at about medium range. Slugshot turns it into no longer AoE, but it goes far further. So I think, you know, even on Frog Isle, right, that mid-range, I feel like can work for you in most situations.
Oh yeah, for sure, especially when it's an AoE damage as well.
The splash, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. Especially on a map like this, you can tag people around the corners. Whereas when you're using the Slugshot, you know, it's much more harder for you to get them. And even if you're not going to kill them, applying that cauterize can be really big for the remainder of the team fight.
Well, we're going to see things start off here on Frog Isle. Fire Spit's coming out of the gate. Remember, UGA prioritized this Victor and this Drogos. They are certainly looking for these guys on these big damage picks. Look at this, Salvo Spit up into the air. The Spit doesn't connect, or that certainly would have been first blood.
I'm liking the way they're playing the Drogos. I feel like they're playing him correctly for the map. I would like to see him positioned a little bit more to the right-hand side of the map, especially with the damage that the enemies have with the direct damage from the Castle Leon. I feel like he should be a little bit more contested at the moment, but he's playing phenomenally and doing a great job.
Slow start. Talk about the start of these lands. Even if you're confident, right? Do you feel like these go a little bit slower out of the gate? I mean, you don't want to be that first blood on land.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing is as well, when we talk about confidence, it's a 5-man squad.
Yeah.
So to have everybody feeling as confident as maybe 1 or 2 of the other players is very difficult to ensure that everyone's on the same page. So I think sometimes starting off with a slower start, making sure everyone's on the same page is kind of the play.
But we're seeing a lot of the damage picks come through here. Drogos was going to kill. It's been admittedly, you know, a pretty light in the kill board here. Drogos has managed to pick one up, and Monsieur Citron here on Victor has found one as well. An early Dragon Punch will come through. That lands on Renard 99 to 30% in favor of UGA. This overtime starts and ends in favor of the Dogs, and they look like they will grab the first payload of the NACE finals.
The Drogos here again being so aggressive here, but it doesn't seem to be punished enough from the hit scan from the Lian, or the slight hit scan coming from the Cassie as well.
Right. I mean, a lot of times we talk about Cassie while not, you know, hit scans, one of the fastest projectiles in the business.
Yeah.
So Platypuses definitely have some of that weight on his shoulders. Here's the Ying ultimate though, the Illusory Rift pop, everyone being healed on UGA's squad. They're hitting the gas pedal, they're moving forward. They want to get this done, but look at that, the Assert Dominance will shut it all down. Pump the brakes, says Washington. We're not ready to give up this choke point. Is this one of the choke points you're thinking about when you think of Frog Isle?
Yeah, for sure. This first corner as you come around is a great choke point. I think fantastic ult coming out from the Ashe there, just to stagger out the use of the Ying ult coming through from the enemies. They're still kind of getting a nice push here going through though.
Yeah, it can be difficult. Ying ultimate, I mean, it's so difficult. Even with Death and Taxes, right? Leon is one of the few characters that can kind of help you to slow that one down. Here's the hit scan though. This needs to be good on the Drogos, and Lightning's ready to go. There's one coming through for UGA. University of Washington answers back. 120 on the clock. The ultimates are hitting the fan. They are going hard for this corner here. Nobody wanting to give anything up. The Enlightenment will run straight into the Immortal, but Fernando dies simply right after. I mean, just about everyone died there in that engagement. I'm glad we got to watch Leon there, because she does manage to survive the onslaught. 1 minute left on the clock here, and Washington certainly against the ropes, but not quite out of it yet, and they're looking like they can absolutely go toe-to-toe with UGA.
I think as well, very good use of the ults there. We see them dumping the ults roughly around the 120 mark, which is where most champions are still able to get their ult back for the next round. So I wouldn't say they're necessarily wasted ults, because as long as they get them back before the start of the next round, each team should be in a good stable position to fight on equal grounds.
You're good to go then. Dragon Punch is already ready to go here. That could be something that UGA look to exploit. They have that small ultimate advantage over their opponents of Washington, but they are really struggling to break this corner. And I gotta be honest, you know, I see teams fight at this corner, but not really this hard. I mean, I see a lot of teams fall back all the way to kind of that final corner, right before the home stretch for the payload is coming down. I'm a little bit surprised to actually see them going this hard this early in the round.
I think the trouble is there's not really anyone flanking from the right-hand side here as they're holding the left side. Both tanks are pushed up very aggressive to hold the first corner. They're doing a very good point of rotating tanks out, so the Ashe goes in, uses his expended cooldowns, and then the Inara's allowed to come in afterwards. But if both tanks are on one side, you really should be sending some damage behind them to kind of chip away at maybe their damage dealers, or even from the tanks from both angles.
That's an interesting point. I mean, when we go back and think about the SSG Envy set, I would say 90% of the game happened on that danger side, on the cliffs, on the stairs, trying to get those flanks, trying to get the aggressive front lines up into the enemy back line. Let's take a look at our respawn first blood here. Mr. Citron, of course, throwing a couple of grenades out here, long distance getting it done. Little Tom Brady, little Aaron Rodgers action from UGA's boys. Now, they did get that first blood. They did get some good work done with Victor early on, but it was relatively light on the kills there. I believe we saw first blood, we saw that kill from Victor, we saw a Dragon Punch land, that was it. 3 kills decided that first objective. So how do University of Washington change things up? How do they get in here?
I want to see the Ashe be very aggressive here. I want to see her use, I can't see, she's very close to having her ultimate up. I want to see her get into the back line, use the ult. Oh, ever so close to get up onto the high ground there. Just missed that there.
So that's normally where you want to be, right?
Yeah, if she'd gone up through the window there, got into the back line, she would have obviously had the immortality from the ultimate, could have done a lot of damage onto the enemy Victor, probably shut him down quite significantly.
Because that's what Assert Dominance is about, right? It's like, I am here now, and this is mine. And, you know, when that lands down in the little gutter right there below the window, they're kind of like, yeah, sure, have it.
Yeah. You can be there.
We ain't really worried about that there. Right. But that being said, Washington do get 42% on the objective. However, it is all UGA on the map control here. 75 and climbing. Inara's on her way. She's already burned the Warder's field cooldown, so she won't have that there. Ashe does touch the point as she goes over it, but no Assert Dominance, no ultimate, no damage immunity this time around. Ash will be the first to fall.
Does give the Inara time to get nice and healthy though. Restart her cooldowns. The wall comes up just to protect herself just a little bit, but it seems like the team of Washington were falling back heavily and leaving the Inara on the point. She's going to be defenseless here and does end up falling because of it. Nice triple kill coming through from the Drogos.
My goodness gracious. Maybe we're seeing why this was second pick this time around. Victor, of course, he was the first top priority for UGA. J-Bean's looking pretty good though. 9 streaks for the Drogos. I believe he was damn near top damage. And I've been calling this composition the double fire spit comp. I mean, look at them. They are neck and neck on the damage charts. A decent margin above the next closest. The backliners for Washington struggling to keep up. But, you know, you talked about Ash being important to be able to poke over lines of sight. I mean, Victor and Drogos got to be 2 of the best in the business to do that.
Oh, for sure. Especially on Frogile. The angles that you can take on Frogile, continuously pumping out damage whilst not putting yourself in a difficult position to take damage also is one of Drogos' strongest points on this map. And as I spoke of earlier, the cauterides inside the deck as well makes it very difficult for the enemy team to continuously heal themselves up. When you have that double blast coming through from the Victor and the Drogos, it spells a lot of trouble.
Now, I got to be honest, I think one of my favorite things and one of the things I think is just most effective in the game is kind of like a 1-2 punch of an aggressive frontliner and like a mid-range damage dealer like a Bomb King or a Cassie. And normally that would be something like maybe you and Doodle, right? You and Doodle group up and you can push together. Does it need to be just Ash that gets aggressive here, or does somebody need to go with her for Washington to make this truly effective?
The thing is with the Victor, especially with the Ash, like the Victor has his mobility up forever. So once the Ash jumps in with the ultimate, if the Victor gets behind tree or something out of the line of sight of the Ash, she has 2 options: leave the safe zone of her ultimate or push for the kill, or just stay there and be a nuisance. So often at times having that extra damage come with you can be super useful. And then whilst the Ash is invincible, she can drop the shield for her damage dealer and then leave him to push through with the shield rather than her needing it for herself. So I think pushing with damage kind of is important on this map.
Yeah, Cassie is mid-range. I mean, I think she can get up there and be effective. And I believe it was Impulse that she's running as well. So getting in the back line and assassinating these lower HP targets is going to be important. Another assert dominance comes out. But again, it doesn't really result in much. There are no kills following it up for Washington. Jay Beans keeps getting it done on Drogos, though. 2 more in the pocket for UGA. 14 streak. These numbers are starting to creep higher and higher, especially for Ying. She's on a 17 streak. I don't know many times when the support doesn't die that you lose that game.
Especially when the support's a Ying. Her ultimate charge is so fast and gives so much heals to the team.
Ain't nothing but uptime for UGA here. Damage dealt being led in spades. 80K a pop for Victor and for Drogos. And neck again. Washington's backliners are certainly involved in this game. Just barely negative, and that's really not something you can blame them for. They're losing the game. That's kind of what you expect here. Jay Beans, though, he's kind of been without pressure here, and talked about a lot about it. That needs to be what changed, and that's a pretty aggressive position. I mean, you don't see a ton of Drogos' hold from stage.
No, not at all. Normally, we typically see them behind the window side, closer to the water side of the map. This is typically used as like a method of stopping the enemy team's aggression. So when the aggressive tank normally wants to push upstairs, the Drogos fire spits continuously come through there, and sometimes you get lucky and the combustible knocks them into the drink as well and get a free insta-gib.
Oh, I think Washington may be listening to us. Ash and Cassie together, but Jay Beans has it locked in. Another fire spit connects here. Cassie just trying to stay alive. She can't find a tree to hide behind. 2 more for UGA, makes 3 total. 4 for Jay Beans. He's headed to the back line, lands the fire spit up in the air. The no-look rockets here. Gotta land him on this mount. Dama's got the slither. He's got the jukes. Long range. Oh, he wanted that spray, bro. That's what that was right there. My man, I know you're confident. He's looking like, you know, Nick Young up here throwing up threes. You don't want to look away too early, though. Finish those kills, brother.
Jay Beans with the spray to the miss, though. We can't deny this one.
You can't spray when you miss here. Not out of it yet, though. Washington are making their way back onto the objective. Finally, it feels like picking up some of these kills. Platypus managed to shut down Victor, but not before he gets taken down quickly there after 3-1 lead. 93% on the objective. This one could go all UGA. Inara has fallen. I really like the way that Leon is continuing to get aggressive, though. You only live once. YOLO. Thanks for clearing that one up here. Ash on the objective trying to hold it down.
I can't believe the Damba's still alive here. That Nando seemed like he had him 1 HP.
I know,
I think the Nando slowed him just a little bit, but the first victory to UGA.
it is going to be that game number 1 here. This best of 5s goes the way of the Dogs. Pretty convincingly, too, I would say, but it's worth noting. They're the top seed. They get to select that map pick, and we've seen that start to come into play today. The closer these teams are, it feels like it's a little bit more polarized through the first couple of maps, right? When you're leading with your best foot forward, you oftentimes, and again, Frog Isle, right? Pretty momentum-based map, pretty snowbally here. Washington need to bounce back here, though. If you go down 2-0 in these best of 5s, it can be a long road back. It's Frog Isle, though. It goes the way of UGA. What are your thoughts on UGA after that first one? Do you think they should continue to draft the way they've been drafting?
Oh, for sure. I think if they keep getting the Drogos to play as consistently as they did in that last round, I don't see them having many troubles, to be honest. The fire spits, the direct shots, and then the ultimates as well. I think they were all perfectly used, all perfectly timed. Really great player there.
How about the front lines? Because that's the biggest oddity, right? The fact that these front lines aren't the biggest topic of conversation for this game is a little bit interesting. We're ready to take a look and maybe see who our MVP was for game number 1. Steel Series presents to you none other than JB's himself. KDA of 7.3, 100K up on the board. Fairly quick game, too, so it's a great stat line to be able to put up. First blood, of course, one of the most important kills of the game is, of course, the first one. You just shake off those nerves, say we got it done, and he really started to feel himself later on. Even though he's missing rockets, missing fire spits, he's still spraying. So we talked about how comfortable a man can become on a champion, and I think that's, you know, I think all the more reason to take it away from him.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I like the little, the generic mouse wiggle as well after you missed a few shots. You know the little reset you do? Wiggle your mouse a little bit.
Something wrong with his mouse pad. I don't know what's going on.
guys, my mouse DPI. It ain't right. It ain't right.
Looking great there, Jay Beans. Game number 1. He locks it in, and a lot of times, you know, we talked about that, the sniper bands coming through, leaving a couple more things open, I think, open-ended, more front lines. Maybe that's why they're not as high priority in game number 1 for UGA. But as we go to these more standard maps, how can Washington look to punish them in the draft when there are going to be a little bit less front lines up and available?
I think trying to just play it, I think, more consistently as to what your front lines are going to be better at. I feel like the aggression coming out of the enemy tanks just wasn't to the level that was needed to give the Cassian and the space needed to shut down the Drogos. I feel like he was very uncontested on the map, considering that they had 2 champions that really should be able to shut him down at least a few times within the game.
Yeah, a couple times for sure. It didn't feel like it was super clear what Washington's win condition was. They never really showed us anything. And a big thing that I always say, especially to these PGS teams, right? It doesn't have to work, right? But just show me something. Show me something different. When something's not working, right? We started to see a little bit more aggression from Ash, right? But we needed to kind of see, I think, a little bit more confidence, right? I don't care if it doesn't work. I don't care if you get wiped, but the fact that you tried something different, tried to get aggressive, tried to win the fight, tried to make it work here. That's game number 1, guys. We're going to throw it to a quick little break, and we'll be back for game number 2. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the NACE Esports Championships. My name is Pretty Hair, joined by my lovely associate, Mr. NTB. He's the frontline player for Mouse Sports. We're here bringing you the action between the University of Georgia and the University of Washington in the grand finals. 50K of scholarship money on the line here. This is a best of 5. These guys are ready to rock and roll. UGA already has 1 in hand, 1 in the pocket. We're about ready to get in the map screen for game number 2. Frog Isle was game number 1. We'll refresh you here on the map band. Splitstone, Ascension, Serpent, Jaguar, all gone, and Stone Keep will be Washington's map selection here. We've seen a lot of Stone Keep today. What do you think Washington are going to be going for here?
I mean, it's kind of like a generic map, I would say, Stone Keep. There's a lot of different compositions you can take, but the one thing I would say on this is it's another very strong Victor Drogos map. So I'd like to make sure that they either take something in the bank that can help them shut that down a little bit more, or maybe even just go for the pick or ban and take it for themselves.
Certainly. And though a lot of things working on Stone Keep today. I feel like, honestly, Envy did a good job switching it up for me on this map. You know what I mean? Really locking down the keep. Very seldom do you see like an Inara sent into the keep to sort of just be the spearhead tank. That doesn't often happen. Normally she just goes and gets parked on the objective. Now that first game, Washington playing a little bit more passive, but that was just, I feel, UGA honestly dictating the pace of the game. UGA are going to go for the Makoa ban out of the gate, and Droxus will be banned away by Washington. Wonder if this is out of respect, or is Androxus just simply strong enough on Stone Keep to warrant a ban no matter what?
I feel like it kind of has to be out of respect at this point. I don't know. I mean, he is a fantastic flank on this map, but I wouldn't say that he's definitely something that you need to like 100% shut down.
It's not that Makoa ban, right?
Yeah, it's not that Makoa, especially now since we have like the Khan, the Torvald still available on the pick.
So Fernando will be the first lock-in here for UGA. Already a bit of a difference, right? But that's sort of reflective of what we saw, right? There are so many damage picks banned out this time around, and Khan will be locked in afterwards for Washington. So a couple of aggro frontliners locked in. And Inara goes as well. Washington looking a little bit more cut and dry, a little bit more standard here with their early frontline picks.
I do like the Khan pick into the Fernando. The Khan very much counters the Fernando for the fact that when he uses his Commander's Grab F ability, he can drop the Fernando shield straight away, allowing Khan just to go straight into the Cauterizer, not have to worry so much about picking up the Wrecker to counter the enemy tank.
This is interesting here. UGA go for the exact same back line. Now Washington grabbed in game number 1 here, looking to flip the storybook a little bit here. And I honestly like this because, you know, when you have that Drogos, that Willow, I feel like you're very predictable. Like you almost need to get control of Keep. With this composition, do you feel like UGA can be a little bit more versatile as to how they play?
Yeah, definitely, for sure, because they have the Fernando to be aggressive, depending on which side they want to take. They have the Cassie, and they can take both lanes now, basically. Rather than having to send both down one side and confirming consistent damage, they can put someone on the church side, someone on the cathedral side, maybe just have someone consistently poking out the Inara, maybe the Liane consistently on the Inara, ensuring she doesn't get the healing that she really needs to survive whilst on the point.
So everyone wants to fight for the keep. Everyone wants to get that high ground. A lot of times because they have that blaster. What are the advantages to holding the cathedral or the lower ground on Stone Keep?
I think you kind of just get that very nice open frame of the point. If that enemy tank needs to be on the point, you have a clear-cut image of them. You're looking straight at them, and also it has kind of like a safer feel for your healer. So if you need to like retreat and everyone needs to regroup, if your healer's in there and your damage is in there and your tank is in there, you feel a lot safer than if you need to be on the other side.
When you retreat out of the low ground here, you are going to be you're just closer to your spawn, closer to where you feel out of line of sight, and really kind of are out of line of sight, out of mind here. But it is the Victor pickup late in the draft for Washington. Of course, the black on slate black here with his iPad in hand. I feel like UGA can do no wrong here. Last pick, what do you want to see them grab?
Ooh, it's a difficult one here. I definitely want to see maybe a flank coming out here, but I don't know who they could go for. It'd be interesting to see his Jhin be pulled out, to be honest.
Is that just because you feel like, I don't know, he can spite right through the shield? We got a lot of UGA fans in the house, man. Loving seeing the support here for the NACE Finals Championship here in Washington. Thinking long and hard about this last pick. Maybe a little Eevee, but I like the guy said.
Eevee as well, yeah.
Yeah, Eevee really needs to be played at a high level. So I could see them talking about it and just be like, you know, do you feel like you can do it, right? Because this is a pick, you got to be all on or you're going to be completely off.
Yeah, 100%. It's very difficult sometimes to play the Eevee into the Castellian as well. Famously. Oh, turn up. They play by their own rules. Damn.
And it's going to be the Terminus. Okay, so just to clarify here, banned out for the World Championship on PC for the PPL teams, but determined to be allowed for play in these NACE finals. So Big Daddy Term, a little something special, a little treat out of UGA. Maybe that's why it was taking so long. They had to make sure that the big boy was allowed and available. Hopefully this is something Washington prepared for. Game number 2 on Stone Keep. Early control of the keep being fought for, but Fernando is just built for this situation.
Nearly seen a big fireball coming out there, but a great block coming through from Khan's shield there to save the enemy, save his friendly DPS behind him from hitting them big 1K fireballs.
I love seeing this little Terminus action come through here. The grenades are going to rip into the back line, and early keep control will go the way of Washington this time. 30% already out, and I like that they're zoning, right? They're getting these dismounts here. So Terminus, I mean, this is a pick that you play when it's available.
That's
what can he bring to the battlefield?
That's my boy, Terminus. Terminus
like
is the
Calamity,
best.
right?
Considering he's not going to the point, I would assume so. Calamity's actually Calamity's kind of a safe pick no matter what you want to do, especially when you have heals in your deck. You can grab those recharges really easily, dump out a big bit of damage, and continue being self-sustaining with the heals on your Calamity shots.
There it is, 87% for Washington here. UGA bring out the Terminus, but so far no good. Washington will grab the first payload of this game, number 2. But don't worry if you're a UGA fan like myself. Like I said, these teams often, it can be pretty polarizing at the start, right? You always want to lead with your best foot forward here. UGA certainly did on Frog Isle. So Washington, you expect them to bounce back. You expect them to look pretty good here. Terminus, let's talk a little bit more about him though. Thought to be often, one of the best point tanks that can actually contest Inara. But is that what he's looking to do here with Calamity?
I mean, I think he should be anyway. This is the point I wanted to bring up. We've seen the Fernando and the Terminus running straight in, but I think they would have been just fine letting the Fernando go in, being the aggressive tank, and then putting the Terminus onto the point. As we said, very good at contesting the point versus Inara. Probably one of the only tanks that can do it to a near 50-50 degree. And good point to look at the deck here. Does he have much healing in the deck?
He's running a little bit of that Necromantic Mic, reducing his damage he needs to absorb the charge. Mostly crowd control and slow reduction. Only 5% additional healing amp and below half health. Bibim Butterballs does go down here. Love the name, love the champion, love to see it. It is Washington all the board, all the time though. 1:15 left on the clock here. The payload finally breaching the final choke point. Look at this though, the spawn camp coming out from Washington.
They're pushing in hard here, making sure the enemy can't get out of base. Payload is being contested though by the Terminus. Health dropping rapid here though. His ult is available though if he does want to contest further.
Sure is.
Both tanks taken down here. Payload looking like it's going to be converted. I don't think Terminus is going to ult here.
Oh man, he's not. Washington do slam that one home. The sprays coming back out this time from the boys in purple and gold. Feeling good about that 2-0 start. And that's so good. I mean, talk to us about, the feelings that, your team can sometimes experience after getting, 4-1, 4-0'd on these first maps. How important is that 2-0 start here for Washington?
I think just generally for morale, it's fantastic. You can kind of sometimes reach a point after a hard loss where the communication starts to dip. Your just general enthusiasm in the game can start to dip. So coming back into the next round and coming out strong is a really big up point for any kind of team in this situation.
Let's take a look at the talent screen before we get into this round. We jumped right into the action out of the break here. Nothing pretty out of the ordinary, but we talked a little bit. Actually, Exaction, yeah, Exaction. We're seeing Calamity Terminus here. It's a good little look here for UGA and for Washington. UGA definitely flipping the script a little bit. Not as much aggression here in the keep from Washington. UGA this time. Leon very, very far forced out. I mean, this is an extremely passive play coming out. Oh my goodness, here comes
Salazar coming through.
Yeah,
decides to go for the Terminus instead of the damage in the backline. Terminus ult is being popped here, but in a position where it can't really find any damage, just used purely for the self-sustain.
Yeah, that's going to be 3 more coming on the board for Washington. 10 streak burning for Platypus. Love what you see from the boys in black and purple, continuing the aggression here. 15% on the objective. UGA definitely struggling to get this one done, so round 1, they fight for the keep. Doesn't necessarily work. Round 2, they go for a very aggressive flank. Leon and Fernando way in the back line. But that doesn't quite work either. What's plan C, I guess? They got to figure something out.
I think that would have been nicer when we seen Talus was alone by himself in the church here. For the Fernando and Leanne, just sort of pushed him a little bit more. He kind of felt like he was very free, even though they knew he was in there alone.
Stop the payload.
Well, Washington are going to go ahead and grab this next payload as well. Remember, folks, this is a best of 5 set here. Washington primed to take the 4-0 lead over UGA Esports here. Looking good in map number 2 here. I think this is brewing up to be a nice little set here. You always got to wonder after you see a 4-1 lead in game number 1 here. 2 minutes left on the clock here. Big ultimates down. I mean, Terminus, you said a minute 20 is kind of the magic number, but Terminus is special, right?
Yeah.
He's the knife in the gunfight. He can sometimes take a little bit longer.
I mean, I don't think it's uncommon for you to see Terminus not even use his ult.
Yeah.
Pretty much the entirety of the game. That's kind of like it's kind of a slow ult to charge as well, and it's something you want to keep in the bank for them really die-hard moments. Let's say he'd used this in the point fight earlier, and now it comes down to the conversion. If he doesn't have that, he's not getting it back.
Champions charge their ultimates by doing damage, right? When you're Terminus, you are the only melee champion in the game. That means you got to get right up close and personal to do that damage, to charge your ultimate, making it that much more important when you use it. Here comes the Fernando ultimate. Similar immunity, but only for 4 more seconds. Commander's grab tossed around here. Terminus is struggling. He needs to get back down onto the payload here. Looking good here. UGA starting to stabilize, though. They trade out 2 for 1, filling up the kill feed. UGA looks like they will be all good to hold this one for now, but there is still 1 minute and 10 seconds left in the round. So I gotta say, this tournament, he's doing a pretty good job, right? He's already back up to 60%. He's finding a way to stay involved, and especially because, you know, he's Calamity. That helps, I think, a little bit, right? Getting more consistent damage out on him.
I would like to see a little bit more Siphon control coming through, but it's something that it takes a long time to get that onto a very high level to kind of keep your Siphon at a point that no matter what happens, you're going to be able to contest easy with it.
It's one of the best defensive abilities in the game. That's what he's talking about right there. When the hand goes up, the big purple nullification field goes out and nothing can pass through it. Projectiles are destroyed, bullets are absorbed, and the only thing that can go through is melee style ability. So think Khan Commander's Grab. When he charges forward and just grabs Terminus by the throat. Washington,
straight through without the contest.
Slam it home. It feels like almost under the noses of UGA. They're going to even up the set 1-1. Smiles across the board. They're looking pretty happy after that one, and how could you not be? A 4-0 quick defeat of the Dogs on UGA. Sometimes that can happen. I mean, how many times did we see that in the NVSSG set earlier today? It's easy.
Yeah, the 4-0 coming through from a Space Station Gaming against NV, like the #1 seed. Of like, it happens even to the best teams in the business.
Sometimes you got to keep your eye on the ball here. I'm sure these guys know that. And that's 1-1 between both of them. I'm curious to see where this set is going to go next. But what I like to see from Washington is, you know, a little bit different style of drafting. That felt like a more normalized BC drafting. Frontliners come through a little bit early. UGA gets a little bit slowed down there. Beautiful just play as a team, as a unit, right? They controlled the really critical parts of Stone Keep. And I think that's why they were able to come out on top. So, I mean, moving forward, Terminus is open and available. I wonder if Bomb King's available as well. That'd be my next question that I would ask to these guys.
If he's not been picked, I think not.
Maybe not.
He'd be first pick.
Terminus, man. I mean, is he still important, right?
I love Terminus. I think he's still a fantastic pick. As I said, he's one of the only ones that can truly contest Sonara on the point. When you have a lot of Siphon control, when like making sure that you're coming off objective and pushing onto objective when your Siphon is back available, the sustainability is absolutely phenomenal.
Congratulations to Platypus. He will be your Series MVP of game #2. Playing the Talus, another somewhat uncommon pick. It's not unheard of to see this one come through. But I think he played absolutely admirably. Kind of tough on Stone Keep. Would you agree?
Yeah, for sure, because he doesn't have any kind of like vertical mobility unless his ultimate is charged. So if the Cassie or something is on the high ground and he needs to get up there, I mean, sometimes he's got a long old walk to get to them.
Got to take the scenic route if you're not too careful there. Ultimate, only way he can go on the up, down. But I think Talus is one of the flankers that probably does best against front lines, right? He's got the overcharge. He can go right through the defensive options.
It's actually as well, Talus into Terminus is a great little matchup. Not a lot of people know this, but if the Talus gets too close to you, because of his short stature, if you don't aim your Siphon directly down at the Talus, he can actually kind of get underneath the range of it and shoot you through.
Interesting. So, I mean, that's something that comes into play, right? The size of the character models in-game. Like, Eevee can basically hide behind payloads because she is so small. I'm sure Talus
Barik as well.
Probably damn near that category.
Barik is amazing behind the payload. He plays a little bit of peekaboo on the payload.
Fun stuff here, and that's all stuff you need to keep in mind. 1-7 there on the Fernando, the first pick. Cookie's OP noticeably struggling there, and that's rough, right? When you're prioritizing something in the draft, you expect it to be, you know, a staple, something you can lean on. But that Fernando struggling a bit to get things off the ground. Do you think we see UGA go back to prioritizing their damages after working on the front lines, not super beneficial for them?
I think that just kind of the front lines were played not in their most optimal role, to be honest. I think they could still go for the same kind of draft, but just try and use your Terminus for your point. Use your Fernando for your aggression rather than trying to send them both down one lane together. I just don't think that's an effective.
They were kind of always almost holding hands, trying to do the same thing.
I spoke of this earlier in the last set. When you have two tanks on the one side, it becomes very easy then for the enemy to go around behind you and sandwich you, which just gives them too much effective damage.
Well, that's going to do it for game #2, guys. We're going to throw it to a quick little break, and we'll be back for more action in NACE Esports. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to the NACE Finals. UGA versus University of Washington. 1-1 in this best of 5. My name is Pretty Hair. I am joined my lovely co-host here, NTBs. We are bringing you the hot action. Cool stuff coming through. I mean, Terminus unbanned, special, never before seen at this event. It's a lot of fun here to see him come back into the meta. He's been gone for so long, but obviously he's champion close to your heart. I think he's a lot of fun as well. We'll have to see if that becomes a thing. It didn't necessarily work for UGA, but talk about how do you identify problems, right? How does UGA say, all right, Terminus, we lost, but Terminus wasn't the issue there?
I think it's definitely about just reevaluating what you did as a whole team. Maybe sometimes it's the draft, maybe it's sometimes the play style. I mean, sometimes you can form mechanical play, but I think majority of the time, most of it comes down to how you work as a unit, how you work as a team.
Too, I feel
yeah,
like.
of course.
If you miss shots, you miss shots, right? And I think you got to be able to say, I just didn't play that right. This is still the right champion. I mean, we're headed to Brightmarsh. I think Terminus is pretty successful here.
One of my favorite maps to play Brightmarsh. Considering the point is so enclosed, his ultimate becomes so powerful. If they don't have the Inara ready to put up to block that kind of damage outburst, and we need that kind of you need to contest the point. It's that 99 moment. You pop that Terminus up,
right? I mean, Kraken from Dredge, it's a long windup. It's a ton of damage. And it really only works in those situations when you have to stand on the objective or have to stand on the payload.
I think the payload conversion is where that works a little bit better. The reason on the point that sometimes it falls a little short as well is if you're very good at timing the point that the damage comes through, the overtime is long enough to step out of the way of the damage. So if it's directly mid on point, covers the whole point, you know it's going to pop, you take one step off just to avoid the damage, the overtime procs, as soon as the damage is gone, you can walk back on. But whereas with the payload conversion, that 1 second you take off to avoid the damage,
that could be
the conversion. So the overtime kind of saves the point objective a little bit from Dredge.
In the Terminus secret sauce here from NTB's the man himself, the man who's played it in the Paladins Premier League before. Washington go back to the Androxus ban again. It's a little bit easier to say, I think this is a little bit more of a catch-all ban here, but given that it was banned on Stonekeep as well, that leads me to believe it may be something to be respected here for UGA. One of my favorite characters to watch. I think the flankers are just so much fun to watch.
One of my favorite characters to play. I'm sure you remember in the warm-up, everyone warms up on Andro. You got to hit them flick shots on them skies to feel good.
Literally, I mean, I saw Unbi and Fisheko warming up, 1v1ing each other. Unbi actually caught the hands a couple of times there from Fisheko, so a lot of guys know how to play that character. A lot of fun. Would definitely recommend you learn that one. Khan is going to be the first pick locked in here, though. This time around, UGA ban away 2 front lines, and it's the University of Washington that get rid of the damage.
So they've banned away the Inara, which is, I think, is becoming more and more prevalent as we go through the tournament. See the Inara bans coming through. This is actually kind of good because if we do see the Terminus come through from the side of Washington, if the Terminus doesn't have anything to stop the overpowered from Khan, there's nothing to stop the ultimate being thrown off the map with Khan.
It's a little bit tough to call here because you don't really know these teams. I don't know what their preferences are, what they're looking to take away. But I feel like a small mistake that could have been made.
Like a normal team.
It's funny, they just counter what I'm about to say. Torvald and Talus too early kind of gives UGA like a heads up of like, all right, this is the win condition for them. This is what we have to pick around. Torvald, Talus, we talked about, does very well into enemy frontliners, specifically ones with shields, and what do you know? UGA have 2 of them.
I think UGA may have made a little bit of a slip up here, in my opinion, going into a further shield-dependent comp. As you just pointed out, Torvald Talus is phenomenal at destroying shields with the overcharge, with the Rekka because of the inherent cauterize in Talus's kit. So I'm not quite sure if UGA are going to have the sustain needed now in this round to contest the point enough.
Something that Bitey was absolutely about was the Torvald Victor as well. And you got to say, I mean, Torvald makes unviable picks viable. You know what he does to viable picks? He makes them incredible. I mean, I always bring it back to Diggy Dog's Torvald Willow on that fateful Stonekeep game when he absolutely ran the table, right? So Torvald Victor here could be an additional win condition. What do Washington go to as their sole point front line here and aggro front line? This next pick really has to do a lot for them.
I think in the aggro front line you maybe not need too much simply because we have the Torvald Talus kind of filling that pseudo role. I think the point tank is going to be a little bit more important for them now. They have the damage coming through. They have good sustain with Ying.
I can get us out of here alive.
Ash kind of fills both roles actually.
Yeah,
Ash can do either one. I think she should still run a Fortress Breaker deck here, but whether she does that to be a point tank or as a aggressive tank is kind of going to be down to Washington's decision to make now.
You know, with Khan, Fernando, Saris coming through, and Vivian on Brightmarsh, I'm smelling some stinky cheese here a little bit. I'm smelling a bit of Avoid Abides, maybe Death Ball action. Wasn't exactly the way Elevate did it, but when they ran their triple tank double support, that looked incredibly hard to slow down. I wonder if that's what UGA is feeling here. Obviously, the momentum works very well for them on Frog Isle. Brightmarsh, do you feel as though it can be played very quickly?
Yeah, for sure. Brightmarsh, and like famously, I would say VP are one of the teams that kind of use this map as a kind of Frog Isle momentum-based map. They get that first point, they get that first conversion, and then they just continue to drive it home with their ultimates from the second point onwards. Yeah,
momentum, to me, it's like when you beat a team fast enough to where they can't get their COT 2s and record 2s online, that's really when you know you've done it to them. You've taken it to them. It's time, guys, for game number 3. Make some noise. NACE Grand Finals here, UGA versus Washington. Brightmarsh is our map. The teams are tied 1 game apiece. The drafts are locked in, and we are headed onto the marsh for some action. We're going to take a quick look at the talent screen here. Bees, what are you seeing?
Is that Exaction Cassie again?
I believe it is.
I believe it is. I'm not quite sure as to the reasoning behind the Exaction Cassie. It would have been maybe nice to see a blast shot Cassie, maybe to shut down the Talus a little bit. Talus is very good at escaping with his very small amount of HP left, so that extra burst can be quite useful to taking down the Talus.
Give me make or break, and it is the Void Abides. So Saris now providing area of effect healing, half effectiveness to targets near her primary target. So as long as UGA stay bundled up, tucked in and once again nice to each other, there is going to be the first blood coming through here. The Fernando shield is going to go up.
We see the Vivian shield drop exceptionally fast there as well, and just allow the Talus to absolutely shred the character before she's able to get online.
Oh my goodness gracious, this is some damage here at TPs. I mean, he gets the full overcharge off into the back of the enemy frontliner there. If that happens, they lose. I think it's really that cut and dry.
A little upsetting as well that the Khan wasn't able to realize earlier that the Talus damage was coming from behind. He did try to shield up to block some damage, but when the damage is from behind you and the shield's in front, that ain't gonna help you.
Not at all. I mean, Washington, they have a way to punish you, Jay. Like I said, I feel like obviously, you know, with the Khan shout, with the Void Abides, it's pretty clear here that UGA are trying to sort of squad up and work together here and be a bit of a death ball.
Great target focus from Platypus there, switching from the Khan shield to the Cassie behind, and then back again once the Torvald silence comes through. Great plays.
That's the target prioritization they're going to need to find success here. Talus ready to go. My goodness, that was a quick charge. Oh my goodness, Washington is just taking it to UGA here. Double kill comes through. And this is UGA's map pick, right? This was supposed to be their next best attempt here at taking down Washington. But again, the Torvald Talus, despite it coming through very early, it has been all but effective.
Most certainly, the Torvald Talus has definitely been the star so far of the game. I think the Ash there had a phenomenal ult as well, very close to death, but able to get the ult off, heal up, get back as a 5-man squad, and continue to stagger out the side of UGA.
Grenades keep on coming through here. The pressure just will not stop. Washington just will not relent, and they will slam it home for a 2-0 lead. They're starting to smile. They are talking. UGA falling a little bit silent here. What do you need to say to bounce your team back after a killless round?
I think the best thing you can do is kind of raise your voice. If you're the guy that has the energy left, make sure you start being extra vocal. Yeah. Make sure you raise your voice up, talk with confidence, and that can sometimes just kind of bring your team's mindset back into a better position to help you and your team push for a safer victory.
There's got to be someone here stepping up for UGA. I don't want to see my dogs drop down, especially on their map pick here. Now, how these maps tend to work in these best of 5s is the highest seed will select the first map, followed by the lowest seed. After that point, whoever loses game 2 will pick the map for game 3, and so on and so forth until we've crowned a victor. So that's why it's important. You've got to be able to win on what's called home court advantage. We talked a lot about that on the SSG Envy step. The one thing I want to actually talk about is the difference this time around in these best of 7s, because in the past, each team has only had 1 map ban, meaning in a best of 7, you don't have to play every map. But how do you feel the home court advantage has changed with 2 map bans apiece, not getting to really select the map in the final game of best of 7, right? You just have to go with what's left there. Does it really matter that much at that point?
I think the best thing to do with the 2-point system now is you can actually kind of take one map that you decide as a team, like, we're not going to practice this anymore. You have that kind of free map. I mean, not every team would do this, but like, say for example, you know for a fact your team is not strong on Ascension Peak. You've only got a couple months left till you're going to be going to HRX. You've got a lot of prep time to do in the other maps. You can just decide one map and say, right, that's not our map anymore. We're not going to play this map. On the other side, you can use it as a kind of a ban out for a team that you know is very strong. Say Fnatic, you could just ban out their Frog Isle away from them. On the plus side of the 2-ban system as well, it's very nice now to know that you can take away these maps that some teams have the cheese strats that you don't even know exist yet. Your timber mills, your fish markets, and then still have a safe pick afterwards as well. So there are kind of different ways that you can play the 2-ban system at the moment.
Well, how many maps would you say, like your team, for example, like how many do you feel like these are our maps, these are our strong maps, these are where we're going to win? And then where do you hit that point where you're kind of like in those best of 7s, right? I'm sure SSG and Envy at the same time, like all that's left was Brightmarsh, right? At that point, are you a little bit concerned about what's left in the map pool, or are you feeling comfortable enough on everything that you leave open and available in the pool?
I think comfortable enough on everything that we open. We decided there was going to be one map for us that we didn't feel comfortable enough on with enough time to practice leading up to the qualifiers. So we were one of the teams that decided this is going to be the map that we know for a fact we're going to ban out. And I think it kind of worked more in our favor to do it that way, rather than having to stress about trying to learn an entire map that you don't really feel super comfortable on.
Well, a 12 streak burning here for Mr. YOLO. 2-0 lead for Washington overall. A little bit of a different start. Here comes the overpower, though. You only live once, and it ain't today. Punk goes out into the marsh. Here's the battle shout comes through as well. 2 for 1 in favor of UGA. Platypus manages to bring 1 kill back with the Torvald. Talus has yet to be shut down. 15 streak burning. These guys are off in the corner, though. They're not exactly being effective. And comeback mechanic is making quick work of the point.
I think UGA did a fantastic job of countering the first point here, going more towards the right-hand side of the map and leaving the Torvald Talus to their own devices. They're a fantastic combo. They do a lot of damage, but if there's no one there to shoot, they're not going to do anything.
Oh my goodness, absolutely exploded there. That's what Vivian is about, though, baby. She shreds through these shields with little to no difficulty. Hyperbeam comes out. It does not manage to pick up a kill here, Vivian. JB continuing to walk down Torvald. He's got ammo for days. He's not going to miss a shot. The true power comes through. He's trying to provide fuel. He will get the kill, but when it's all said and done, he goes down because he was so worried about getting back that he never dropped a rune of travel.
I think as well, he kind of went in there to save his Torvald. If the Torvald had lived that, would have been a fantastic play, but given the Torvald had already dropped, the rune of travel does seem like it was wasted a little bit there, only just finding the Vivian pick to be traded out as well. An ult for a trade, kind of risky.
And this is getting really dangerous, right? UGA's composition wants to group up. Look at that convergence to the back line there, but no real follow-up. No one manages to get anything done off the back of it. Platypus finds 1. YOLO manages to stay alive as well, and the kills continuing to go the way of University of Washington. 4 for 1 here over the Dogs. 5 for 1 when it's all said and done. Torvald and Talus, this little tag team here just cannot be stopped.
Easy 3-0 now for the side of Washington. I'd like to see maybe them try and continue to shut down the Torvald and Talus a little bit more. When they split them up, they had the Torvald dead, they had the Talus dead. They definitely seemed like they had a lot more presence on the point. I think they need to ensure that the Vivian is going to focus down either one of those two and ensure that they're both out of the fight at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, normally Vivian is kind of that answer, right, for shielding in general, but Torvald and Talus heavily reliant on it, but is it enough, right? I mean, Talus has things like a little bit of life still, maybe some damage reduction through cards like Guts. Is that shield break going to be enough to stop Platypus? So
long as she's running Wrecker alongside the Legend, it will come to a point where that shield is basically non-existent. It will go onto the Talus, it will be gone from the Talus. And once the shield drops, the damage drops as well. If she can then time the shield well enough, she should be able to burst Talus out fast enough to ensure that he can be shut down.
There you have it, folks. The win condition laid out from the best in the business. Can't get that true power, I don't think, onto the Cassie, or excuse me, the Vivian, which I believe was the target that he wanted. Ash just dunking down the flag. The battle standard has been planted here for Washington. They want to commit. They want to get this one through. But with that being said, Ash actually has to worry about her backline. I like this, though. Bim Bim Butterballs. He sort of just counter-aggresses and gets into the enemy backline.
I think the Ash ult there was a little bit preemptive. the payload hadn't really been pushed past the choke point. The Talus had just died, and your damage dealers were quite far behind. They gave UGA quite a nice opportunity to push in and get some damage, but
yikes.
Wasn't enough.
That was a big yikes there. Washington, quick 4-0. Over the top of UGA there on their map pick. So like I said, it's loser's pick from game 2 on, so UGA will get to select the next map as well. It's very important though that the boys, you know, keep their heads held high, they keep talking, they keep communicating. I feel like the second the team stops talking and communicating, they're dead in the water.
Oh, definitely. Without communication in a team-based game, like, you lose everything that you have up. You can have the best setups in the game, the best ult combos, but if you can't communicate to get them off, it's all for nothing.
Well, the Torvald Talus certainly unstoppable in that first game. And Victor, I feel like, you know, a great pick as well. It's not super highlight reel all the time because it's not a lot of the kills, right? Those grenade poke damage is just going to set up a lot. Again, though, Washington, despite picking that early enough in the draft, it feels like the guys that get those just comfortable win conditions online early going to be the ones that get the wins here.
I think sometimes as well, the thing with online players compared to at home players is you're uncomfortable. You maybe have a little bit of nerves, and the coordination isn't always going to be as perfect as you have at home. So maybe getting those comfort picks for them is kind of allowing them to just have a little bit more ease on the stage, have a little bit more simplicity in fragging to the level that they need to be victorious.
I like that. You know, the game is so much more about, you know, something that looks good on paper. And I think that's, you know, that's what makes teams like Na'Vi and Envy so special, is that because they are that good, they just play what's optimal. They can just play what's best on paper because they're almost taking the human error factor out of it. So you have to be able to play what you pilot in these games, or you're just not going to be able to affect it, despite how good your draft looks on paper. MVP, though, is going to go to Mr. YOLO, despite the Torvald Talus combination. This man, he did it all on his own, right? And this is something, if you're familiar with the Premier League, I give a lot of credit to Ninu from Virtus Pro for doing kind of what YOLO does there, right? There's very clear, it's honestly like you look at that game, right? That's going to be Perdo and Sheepa on that Torvald and Talus. Elvin Pat's getting pocketed by Surets. And then you have a guy like YOLO or a guy like Ninu who's just kind of left to do his own thing. And that's what's so special, when you can be successful without really being backed up by anyone. Yeah,
for sure. There's kind of a fine line as well of like making sure that you're not so in the enemy's face that you're being shut down whilst continuously almost doing enough damage that you need to be shut down. Like, it's a very fine line that you run, and I agree with you. Ninu does that very, very well. Yeah,
so making sure that you can strike the balance, making sure you're having an impact, but letting everyone do their job at the same time here. It's a best of 5. Washington are simply one game away now from claiming the victory in the lion's share of this $50,000 scholarship prize pool. And on the board, I mean, UGA looked so great in game number 1. I just did not expect the tables to turn this hard. Game 2, you know, it's understandable, right? It's that map pick for Washington, but the fact that they did it on UGA's map pick, you know, I'm a little bit scared now for my dogs up there. I mean, there's nothing stopping from Washington doing it again. We're going to send it to a quick break, and we'll be back with what could be the final game. Welcome back, folks, to the NACE Esports Collegiate Finals here for Paladins. It's UGA versus University of Washington. My name is Pretty Hair. This is my man NTBs. We're bringing you the action here in this best of 5 set that determines who's going to take home the lion's share of this $50,000 scholarship prize pool. UGA came out strong in game number 1 on their map pick, but it has been all Washington ever since. Now, of course, UGA will select the potentially final map here. I don't know if that's going to make much of a difference. Let's see what it is. It's going to be Timber Mill here. Looking to get a little bit spicy. Bees, talk to us about Timber Mill. What are we expecting to see?
Can you ever predict a Timber Mill? I don't know what you can see on a Timber Mill. I don't play that one no more. That's one of our bands as well. I think Timber Mill, obviously, primarily a very heavy sniper map. With that comes, obviously, very heavy flank draft as well. If your enemy is going to have a long-range composition, you need something to get close and shut it down. So maybe we're going to see some Strix, some Kanissa, or maybe some spicy little Eevee plays on top as well.
I mean, already we've seen one map banned out, both snipers. UGA got rid of Strix and Kanessa on Frog Isle. So I feel like that's not exactly something we'd be surprised to see here on Timber Mill either. Maybe they just pick it up, though. It's really difficult to say. I feel like, you know, you either need to get rid of both of them, or you need to be hyper conscious of which way they're going to go. We're headed into the draft here for game number 4. University of Washington leads UGA 2 games to 1. as we head into picks and bans here. First pick does go to UGA. They will select the first ban champion that can no longer be played for this particular game here. And it will be Kinessa. So I feel like we're probably just going to see that Kin Strix ban.
I mean, I'd actually kind of like to see the Strix open and maybe even first pick it. It'd be very spicy, but Strix is actually quite powerful on the map for the fact that when he flares down straight through the middle, you do get sight on pretty much the entirety of the map. And since the map was changed to not allow one of the side flank routes on top, it becomes very easy for the Strix to ensure that there's no angle that he can be surprised from. But we do see him get banned out by UGA anyway. So maybe we're going to see another Victor Drogos gameplay come through here.
Perhaps.
Nope, we will not.
Complete ban out of these damaged champions. And the seas and the rivers do indeed. Makoa locked in first here. I feel personally one of the few front lines that is obviously effective on every map, but particularly so here because of his dredging. Because of the fact he can actually displace people from the high ground. Especially since very few of the front lines have that vertical mobility. It's very good to be able to displace what is going to take you down from the point. What's stopping you from contesting the point? It's going to be that Victor. It's going to be that high damage outburst. If you can pull them down, they become the sitting ducks. Then they're the easy targets. It's easy to feel helpless on this map as a front line. Like, for sure. It's just like, what can I do here? I think, you know, Envy did a great job balancing Inara on the objective as well. Hopefully University of Washington can look the same there. I'm curious if this is you know, a little bit inspired by maybe what they saw earlier on today. Timbermill, like you mentioned, can be a very pocket strat heavy map, so knowing what you're doing here is key. UGA have gone for the Victor as well as the Cassie alongside their Makoa. I like to see the long-range damage coming out here. This is a map where you definitely need to be sure that you're poking out your enemies here. The Inara coming through is going to have a lot of damage reduction, but we're going to have a lot of poke coming out from the Victor and Cassie. It's actually one of the first maps that I started trying to run Tremors for the Inara, simply because the damage reduction is fantastic, but the line of sights are very easy to block off with the wall on this map. Sure, so Tremors, very fun talent for Inara that will reduce the cooldown of your wall by 80% as long as it's not destroyed. And just to give you some context, I think I've seen one Inara wall legitimately destroyed in my entire lifetime of casting Paladins. It is nigh impossible to actually bring it down. And you can cancel the wall at any time, right? So if it is about to go down for God knows what reason, you can just, you know, drop it down yourself and make sure that you're always getting that cooldown reduction. So UGA have locked in their final pick. What are your thoughts? I'd like to see the Barrack come out. It's kind of going to be a good contest for the Inara. The Inara is definitely stronger than the Barrack, but it's nice to see them get a point tank on the board. I think I would have liked to have seen a Terminus pick up a lot more, though. He's going to do a much better job of containing the damage from certain characters coming through. The Willow as well is going to be really good at shutting down the Barrack here. If he tries to take a deck that's kind of centric healing on his turrets, then the Willow is going to be fantastic at shutting that down. Well, hell, if they did it once, I don't see why they couldn't do it again here. The draft is locked in. I'm feeling good about what UGA's got, but Washington certainly not offering up any blaring weaknesses to UGA. Games are 1-2 in favor of Washington. This could potentially be it. We've got some fans here in the crowd. A couple of UGA fans out there. Let's get a little go dogs on 3. 1, 2, 3, go dogs, baby, sick 'em. Hoo, hoo, hoo. UGA needs your energy now, folks. They need to get this win if they want to stay in this set here. We got the flags waving in the front row. Maybe just a hint of bias up here in the casting booth as well. My boys, I want to at least see a game 5 out of them for sure. Such a great game 1, and you know, especially playing around this Makoa, if the hooks are landing, man, I don't see how they can go wrong. I think that definitely the pressure's on them, though, to do something. The enemies have the Inara. They can be a lot more stable, just stand there. They're going to say to them, you come to us. You bring the fight to us and see what we can do in return. So, curious your thoughts. I was very, very adamant about I wanted to see Sadak specifically change things up from Rounder. I didn't like the way he was playing Timbermill. Is it okay to leave Inara? And where is that? You know, you talked about, like, for instance, 1 minute, 20 seconds. That's the magical number. How much can you give up on the objective before, even if you win the fight, you've really lost? For me personally, once it starts hitting that 60 tick, once it hits that 60 tick, I think you need to either have been doing something already to force the enemies out, or you need to start getting towards that point. Because after that 60 tick, you blink and they're on 80. You blink again, that capture's gone. You need to make sure but you're accomplishing your goals. Willow actually on the low ground here. Interesting choice of positioning here for young Platypus.
You can't get hooked down if you're not on the high ground.
200 IQ here. He's going to tap his little temple and let him know he's feeling good about that. The med zone burst damage will not connect onto Cassie and Nara, starting to fall lower and lower onto the objective.
I feel the Makoa and the Cassie there didn't have the communication needed to just push in and to deal with that Willow there. If the Makoa just pushed in, got a hook, nice little blast shot from the Cassie, the Willow would have been in a lot more trouble there.
There it is, 39% though for Washington. It's not the magical 60 yet. We're north of 50 though. UGA have got to make a move. Someone has to die here. Cassie's looking like she's getting into position. I would have liked to see them just continue this flank, right? Go down that rabbit hole, see who's hiding in the back corner there, put some pressure onto him. And now Mr. Citron just has to drop. And again, Washington, Arcanara on the objective. First blood falls after the payload is captured. I don't know that I've ever actually seen that.
It's definitely a rare sight for the payload to go that far without, because that kind of means that the barrack...
That means these UGA frontliners ain't bleeding for it, Bees. That's what that means.
Well, where's that barrack, boy?
We got to get on there. We got to lay our life on the line. It's all you've got to give here. UGA, you lose this game, you go home. $30,000 left on the table there for Washington. 40K goes to the winner in pure scholarship money. And I know these Washington boys are going to be gunning for. There's the barrage coming down, landing big damage out, but no kills.
Nice coordination there for the commander's grab to come through into the Victor zone, just to ensure the Makoa hasn't got the opportunity to escape the damage. Really nice coordination.
There it is, grenade dropping from the high ground there. 2 kills come through for UGA. The dogs starting to get some momentum as they draw blood. That's 3-0. UGA will stabilize for the time being. So Timbermill, it doesn't have really any hard choke points down in the trenches. No. Where do you want to hold from here if you're the defense?
I think the best positions to hold from is underneath the roof that we see everyone sitting on at the moment now. Underneath from there, you can kind of get a little bit of cover. There's also logs along the way that you can use for cover. But typically, even behind the logs, a part of you is going to be showing. When you're playing the Inara, these taller champions, the logs don't do a fantastic job of hiding you. Barrack, on the other hand, Barrack behind them logs, you can't hit him. He's had.
He's completely hidden there. 54 seconds on the board here. There's the overpower. The silver platter sacrificial style will be good for a kill, but not before J-Bean just manages to find 2 of his own. Look at this tracking though, not missing a shot. These backpedaling front lines. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. Those are slow moving big beefcakes there, and J-Beans won't miss a shot. He finds 2. And he will again hold for UGA. Only 30 seconds left on the clock. Do Washington have a real shot at getting this one through?
I think from the first point when they reset, they had a very good chance. They still had 1:30 on the point, kind of where it is already. They had 1:30 remaining. After this point now, it's going to hit overtime. It's going to be difficult for them to do something without maybe having to expend some more ults. And I just don't know if that's the play on Timbermill. Pushing into the next point without your ultimates is going to be a very difficult play for them.
Yeah, and they spend a big one. I mean, it's not slow to charge, but it's not quick to charge either. Overpower depends all on the damage you're doing. They're hitting the gas pedal. The University of Washington want to go for it. They pop the Fae Flight. The damage is coming out. They have completely scattered UGA to the winds here. The Dome Shield is spent too. He just runs out of it, dies, and all of the Dome Shield HP will die with him. Look at this, the clean sweep from Washington. Platypus finds 2 more, and Washington continue their campaign towards victory.
I don't know if that was intentional there, but they totally left the Damber in the back lines there. Then he had to come in to stagger afterwards. It almost seemed like the Willow shot, thought he'd confirm the kill because the elimination noise came up.
Oh, really?
But it was actually the barrack that dropped. And they just left the 1 HP Damber sitting in the corner.
I mean, 7-1 here from Platypus in the first round. It's not like there's nothing to there's not anything to contest him on UGA. I mean, J-Beans here, he's a pure hit scan champion. Barrage actually works fairly well against Willow as well. I think, you know, that's something I'm looking out for. You can actually shut her down fairly easily in Fae Flight with your Barrage.
Yep. Depends how much of a speed boost she's got, though.
That is
if
true.
she hits that hyper speed,
if she hits that perfect. So that's basically just, you flutter and then you have to hit it the right time.
Yeah, so it carries momentum into the ult. So the more momentum you have into the ultimate, the faster the ult can be charged off the get-go.
So we'll have to see if that ends up coming through. Barrage is ready to go here. Inara, certainly a big part of this composition. Finally, though, Cassie gets into the backline. She finds the first blood here, focusing a little bit out onto the Ying. I mean, I don't know. How do I feel about this? Like, what are the chances he actually gets that kill from this distance?
Pretty slim. I would like to have seen him throw the grenade and go straight into the barrage, so that once the grenade hits and she's low HP, the barrage hits before she actually has time to react and realize that she's in as much trouble as she is. The kind of best way to do it as the Victor is to burst the Ying before she's actually realized she's being burst.
That's actually, you know, that's a ton of damage, right? Shrapnel without full fall off there is going to do 950 to Barrage for 1,500 more. That's going to do it. That's going to kill her right then and there. YOLO manages to just squeak out of harm's way there before going down 69% to 30 on the objective, though. That's one kill for J Beans. Mr. Citron here. He's got Khan dead to rights here. He's running his roll. Cassie, careful though, son. I mean, he manages to get the big heal off, though, and Khan stays alive. That's terrible for UGA.
I'd like to see them be a little bit patient here. Wait, the capture isn't quite done yet. They have time.
Look at these two, they're just grabbing each other. Commander's grab, throws Makoa up. Dredge Anchor back onto the high ground there. It's 93 to 93. UGA will finally grab one here, and momentum back on the side of the Dogs. I didn't even think, did Inara even die there? I feel like I don't know what happened to her, but
she was there at one point.
Bim Bim Butterballs was in control there, 2 and 3. That's what I'm seeing though. This is not the most bloody game, right? Not a ton of kills going either way. Timbermill though, so spread out. I mean, these fights can happen kind of intermittently. So now, where do Washington go? How do they defend here and sort of hold this one where UGA failed? Is there anything they can improve upon?
I mean, they're definitely taking the right approach at the moment, taking the high ground. But as we see, Makoa is doing a fantastic job of pushing in and making sure that these high ground areas that are being held are being heavily contested here. Once the high ground is clear, the push becomes so much easier.
There it is. Kills coming through for either side here. YOLO manages to pick up Bim Bim Butterballs before going back into the back line here. Playing around those logs that you mentioned, being a pretty large factor defensively. Do you want to see him play here? Do you want to see him rotate back up to the high ground?
I think he should be taking a high ground position here. If the Makoa comes in with a hook, he's going to be such an easy target. I mean, he does have his ultimate available, but do you really want to expend your ultimate just for the sake of being hooked, for being out of position? I wouldn't think so.
Seedling is going to go
Big
down here. The damage indeed on the Victor is bringing the pain. He manages to get out a little bit of his own here, but Willow on the high ground, this is going to spell trouble for UGA. The sooner they can get her displaced, the better, because until they do, Platypus is just going to be free farming.
I think the Makoa did the correct call before pushing up for the high ground, and I think sometimes what a lot of players struggle with is just because it didn't work the first time doesn't mean you shouldn't do it again.
Yeah.
If it's the correct play and maybe you played it a little bit wrong, you should still go for it if it's the correct play.
I mean, we talked about that in the regard to champions, right? You got to be honest with yourself. What went wrong there, and was that objectively the correct play there? We just need to do it a little bit better. 30 seconds on the clock here for UGA to figure out what they want to do here. Ultimate resource management. I think that's the next topic of conversation here. When do you pop things on Timbermill? When are you within striking distance or one team fight victory away? Are they close enough, or should they be careful?
I think they're not close enough here now. I mean, if they can get this pick onto the Ying, then by all means they could pop their ults and they'd be in a great position to push it. When the enemy doesn't have support, you have so much more free control on the push.
It's scary to go down 3-1 too, especially being down 2-1 here in this best of 5. If Washington can defend, they will score a point and they will be on set point in the next round. And it looks like it may just be that way. Bim Bim Butterballs falls. Willow is just raining down the pain on the UGA at the moment here. It's looking all good for the boys on the West Coast here. Washington do defend successfully. They will go up 3 points to 1. And with that, almost every ultimate advantage is up as well. I mean, they are looking good to put this set away.
Yeah, once you have that Inara, once you have that 3-point advantage, I mean, there's going to be a lot of pressure now on UGA to make sure they play correctly, because one mistake could lose them the set now.
Man, what happened? UGA looked so dominant in the first game here, but Washington has been all over them since. They simply have not given them an inch. Was it just those couple of damage picks coming out uncontested? Because I did personally, and I don't think you did either, that draft looked bad from Washington in the first game.
Not at all. The draft didn't look bad, but I think the best thing for Washington as the set progresses, they start to look like they're doing doing what they need to do, that each champion's objective is being used correctly, and also they seem like they have a little bit more team play between the team than I would say for the same with UGA. They seem a little bit more coordinated and doing things together.
1 in 3 does enable the comeback mechanic. That's something that UGA certainly is going to need to lean on here if they're going to survive Timber Mill and go on and have a chance at winning this set. Here comes the barrage, looking for targets here, finding one, finding two, but Khan simply backpedals all the damage and it runs straight into the shield. Nothing really accomplished with that ultimate. And again, long range pressure coming out here, but this time UGA off to a much better start on the objective.
The Barrack does end up falling to the overpower from the Khan here. Fantastic use of the ult. Kind of taken into a position as well where the damage dealers from the side of UGA didn't have the perfect angle to contest the Khan ult.
Rough stuff here in the Ancient Rage, in the dead zone as well, not managing to accomplish much. Shut down out of the sky, Jay Bean manages to keep things together for his team, at least for the time being. Washington here looking dominant, 57%. Remember, this is it. UGA either grab this payload or they will go home. Washington is fighting against the dome shield right now, but they're not scared to drop into this Barrack. Beautiful wall there to keep Barrack in the ring. And now Makoa dropping down. Jay Beans manages to grab one, and Nara here fighting tooth and nail for the objective. Washington still holding strong.
She needs to make sure she stays away from them walls, stopping the damage going through though. Make sure that Barrack's dropping down. He was one shot there, could have been a fantastic pick for the team.
Red Serpent, man, that's the last ultimate available for UGA. They lose Barrack. If Bim Bim Butterballs goes down here, it could be trouble. Makoa drops as well. The Dread Serpent looks like it's actually immuned out by the Khan battle shot. He gives it to Willow and Leon at the same time. Washington stand 5 strong. UGA, just 2 members left. Overtime expires in favor of Washington, and they will be your NACE champions. Congratulations to the boys. $40,000 in scholarship prizing in their pockets. UGA go home with 10 for second place. Incredible comeback there. They win 3 straight after UGA's dominant win. What did it for them on Timber Mill?
As I said earlier, I think the team play really started to shine as they progressed through the game. The damage champs and the front lines, they need to be aggressive playing together. From the side of UGA, we've seen the Makoa kind of push in, get a little bit poked out, then the Cassie push in afterwards. If we'd seen maybe a little bit more coordination, the Makoa go in, get the hook into the Cassie blast shots, get them kind of crucial picks at the start, I think they could have had a much nicer and smoother game.
The thing I like about those Inara compositions, right, is that, you know, the onus of needing to execute is not really on you, you know what I mean? If you just park it there and the enemy team doesn't do anything, you win by default. And Washington do just that. They do a good job staying safe, playing to their strengths, and they are your NACE championship. Give it up for the boys of Washington. I know we had a lot of UGA fans in there, but these men simply played better on the day. Congratulations, they are your NACE champions. A round of applause. They go home $40,000 in scholarship prizing richer, and you know that's going to lift a little bit of that burden of the student debt off of these young men. They played beautifully. They certainly earned it. What advice would you give to UGA, I think, to maybe, you know, play a little bit better? They had the Makoa, they had strong picks there. What was the difference? What do they need to do? How do they need to attack that?
I think they just need to be aggressive, and as we said, just make sure, even if the right play doesn't work the first time, go back and do the play again. Just because it doesn't work the first time, again, that doesn't mean it was incorrect. I think they did a fantastic job of trying to clear the high ground, but allowing the Willow to live maybe a few too much, and then kind of target prioritization as well. Trying to go for targets that are kind of hidden, like the Ying in the back line. It's going to be so difficult for you to get. Almost kind of be a lucky grenade if you did hit that.
That, I definitely agree. It feels like, right, they were really, really worried about getting that Ying pick, and it seems like kind of unlikely, right? At that range, at that distance, she knows she's taking the damage there. And the boys of Washington are all smiles. You certainly have to commend them as well, because they certainly did not come out of the gate strong, but they recovered, they bounced back, and they kind of stuck to their guns, right? And that's almost the theme of what this set was for us. Even though something maybe didn't work for you the first time around, I think Washington did a good job sticking to their guns. They prioritized a lot of the front lines there. The bands were all damaged, though, in that final game there. Big congrats, of course, to Washington on their victory here. They played very, very well. That was a great set, though. I enjoyed myself. How was your first cast, man? How'd you feel?
I enjoyed my first cast, you know. I thought I'd have maybe a little bit of butterflies, but it was smooth. I enjoyed it. Yeah. I think it's something I could get into doing.
Ah, man, desk player, casting, there's nothing the boy can't do here. We're going to throw it to a quick little commercial break, and we'll be back with some post-game action. We got the whole squad back here for Washington Esports. First off, gentlemen, congratulations on the victory there. That was great, and I got to commend you guys. Got kind of stomped there, rolled in game number 1. What was it that kept you guys together through the back end of this set to come and win 3 straight?
We learned to turn off auto-buy. That was the big one.
That one has got to hurt. You know, that's gotten a lot of players, I'm sure, over the course of Paladins history. UGA came into this with a lot of confidence. You guys came into this with a lot of confidence. How did you adjust to the draft? That was not exactly standard, I would say, picking up 2 damage picks right out of the gate. So how did you guys know to stick to your guns and continue drafting the way you were drafting?
After Stone Keep, we kind of realized that they were very weak DPS, as in their hero pool was very small. We mentioned this early on. They're just not, they didn't practice wide, and this is a big problem. We talked about this like at the beginning. They have a very narrow set of heroes, and once we realized that they took the Cassie and Leon on Stone Keep, we kind of realized we can just pinch the draft and take whatever we want.
So when you look at a team like that, do you guys prepare specifically for this matchup? Do you guys have an idea in mind coming into this set, what you want to do, or does watching the tournament for the PC World Championship today change at all the game plan, or did you know what you wanted to do coming into today?
So we were very fortunate in the fact that many pros were able to help us out. Mr. Hayes, Cuss Cutie, Payan, I'm probably missing some. Ark, you're my boy. I love you so much. But at the end of the day, like, we did a ton of scouting going into this tournament, and a lot of that is on his back and me yelling at him, but, you know.
Yeah. It was a lot of reviewing both their VODs, hunting down their spectates, and finding their spectate passwords. Oh, that was brutal.
Hey, I mean, they're not going to change it. What are you going to do?
I got to do a little bit of homework, guys. Big congratulations to all of you. You know, you go home $40,000 in scholarship prize money, richer. What does this win mean for you guys and just your overall careers in esports?
I was just going to say it means that, like, for them, they've been trying to validate their esports program at UW forever, or at least Will has. And, you know, I think for him, this is kind of like the maybe major stepping stone for UW to finally start realizing that maybe esports is like a real thing that they can start investing in and helping their students pursue.
That's awesome to hear from you guys. You know, you are trailblazers, I think, in your own right, stepping up and actually starting to grab this win. I'm going to come over and just give you guys congratulations. I want to shake everyone's hand here. I don't have the range with that mic. It's great stuff from you guys today. That's going to do it for us here, though, at the Georgia World Congress Center. We're going to kick things back off. The PC Grand Finals is going to be live at 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. Don't miss it. And again, big congratulations to you guys. Thank you all, and good night. Yeah!